Are you there?
Oh, I thought you were talking to Good Morning to your audience.
Oh no, I'm talking to you, Chuck.
Okay.
Okay, and we're talking with Chuck Snider and you wrote the book "Men: Some Assembly Required." The title alone is pretty much says it all, doesn't it?
Well, I think it might says a couple things to me anyway. The reason I wrote this was I do some lay counseling, and I'm in advertising, really is my field, but I'm an old guy and made a lot of mistakes, and so as women come into my life, they have no idea how the man in their life is wired, or what he's thinking about, or why he thinks, or if he thinks.
Mm-hmm.
There was a Kathy cartoon, and she was complaining because men did not come with an instructional manual. Bicycles do, furniture does, but men didn't. So I sat down and wrote one. And so basically what this Men: Some Assembly Required book is an instructional manual for women about men, because women think that we're thick-headed and insensitive and one-dimensional and think about sex all the time, and that's about right. That's
well, yeah. I'll agree with that.
And so I've got some good reasons why we do those things, and I wanted to explain to her. And then the assembly part of it, and I'm sure you're a sensitive, wonderful person, but I really had to have some people come into my life. The church was not doing a very good job. Finally, Gary Smalley came into my life. We were teaching the pro athletes with him way back before you were born. And he was a third party. I talk about third parties in the book, where most men, not all men, but most men need to be taught what a woman needs and how she thinks. I remember way back when we'd have a conflict, Barb and I, she would probably sometime in the middle, she'll just say, well, just get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd get out of there. And that isn't what she meant. I had to have somebody come into my life that says, no, what she really said was, will you stay here and cut through my words and my tears and my voice and prove to me I'm worth something to you. I mean, the words said, get out of here. Every part of her said, stay here, and I missed it badly. And so that's the assembly. I think most men, Promise Keepers is doing a good job. Small Men's Bible Study is wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times fathers and grandfathers don't know anymore, and we do. So we really need some modeling as to how to deal with a woman, because they're very, very complicated. And on the other hand...
Okay, so basically some assembly required is basically going back to the women as far as what I can see then, because the men, basically, we're perfect, and we just have to find out what way to guide through what the women say.
Yeah, right. They are not so sure we're perfect. And,
yeah.
So sometimes they'll agree with me that we do need some training.
Yeah. Now, okay. Now, as far as being, now, are you saying that we should be more sensitive in the relationship, or?
Yeah, we're not into the relationship. Basically, that's not all. I better disclaim this because some women are like me and some men are like Barb. But in fact, some of my feminist friends kind of take shots at me once in a while. They'll say you're dealing with stereotypes, and I agree with them.
Uh-huh.
Only I call them tendencies. There's tendencies of a man to do things this way. There's tendencies from a woman to do that. Now, as far as relationships are concerned, men tend to be into goals and into doing and amassing and counting. Women tend to be into relationships, even if they're in the marketplace. They tend to put great importance on weddings and their Bible studies and their grandmother and their folks and visiting the great aunt. They're just into that, and most men are not. So that's why a lot of men don't want to go to weddings.
Mm-hmm.
Why we have to be drug off to anniversaries. So there are a few sensitive men. There's one guy in Wisconsin, somewhere there, I think, and there's one in Michigan and one back here in Seattle. Those are the only three know of, except you.
Yeah, except me. I was going to say,
yeah.
Exactly.
But there's a few. But basically, a man is not sensitive. He doesn't understand. He's off to work. He can actually work for 25 years and not know he has a wife, and that's kind of the tragedy, because as long as the wife is not crying or throwing things, he thinks he's got the best marriage going.
Right.
And she's maybe just swallowing it.
So is that usually when the kids grow up and leave, and then you kind of look at each other and say, okay, what have we been doing for the last 10 years or 20 years?
Absolutely. That's exactly why we have so many divorces about 25 years out. He hasn't given her the time of day. He's expected her to serve all his needs, and he never gets around to serving hers. And so she's there for the kids, about 25 years in, he sees that he's not going to be president of the company, and he's not going to make as much money as he would like to, and so he comes home for a relationship now. He's found out the importance of it, and she goes out the door many times saying, "Where you been, Turkey? I'm out to find myself," and get some approval, and she goes to work or something, and they just kind of pass in the night.
Okay. Now, what is it about when you first meet? I know when you're dating and everything, you find your wife to be, you have so much in common, but after you've been married for 10, 15 years, you find out how much you don't have in common.
Well, basically, that's part of the dating process that we discovered, and that is that when we're dating, usually we're not sharing negatives. If Barb and I were to have a difference of opinion when we were dating, I'd never say that's dumb or that's wrong. I would say, "My, that's an interesting viewpoint. Don't think I've ever seen it that way. Let's talk about it."
Yeah.
Then we men tend to be deceptive. We don't really mean to, but women take us kind of deceptive because of the fact that during the dating process, we sit on the blanket with them and look in their eyes and ask about their mother and say, "When can we go shopping again?" And I mean, we just are all theirs, and we're excited about it because we have a goal, and that's to get them married. So then after that happens, then we've accomplished that great goal.
Isn't that kind of like going for a trophy, so to speak?
Yeah, right. Okay, now we're done. We're done with that. In fact, it was really funny. I was on a program not too long ago where they brought in another opposite couple, because Barb and I are the most opposite, and they were going to challenge us. And this guy was just sharing along this dating thing, and he said, once the romance was over, I mean, that's what he described at the dating. Okay, once we got rid of all this romance stuff, now we can get on to life. And, of course, the wives and the women say, "Wait a minute, the romance should continue."
Right.
And that's where we have to be taught how important it is to take them out on dates and look in their eyes and do all the things we were doing when we were dating. They just think they've married two men, one that they dated and one they married.
Why do you think men kind of drop off that way, though? I mean, sometimes men can be the the most romantic, and then when they've been married a few years, they all of a sudden look in each other's eyes and say, "Oh, what happened here?"
Yeah, I think it goes that basic goal and relationship. Men tend to be in a goals. That doesn't mean women don't have goals. There's different kinds of goals. They have relationship goals. So we have a goal. We've accomplished that goal when we got married. The wife is into relationships. She's excited about this guy she's dating. And then all of a sudden now he's done and he's gone off to his career or something, and she feels very violated because he doesn't continue doing some of the things that he did during the dating. We didn't change all that much. We now we can compartmentalize our lives as men a little better than women. Not better, that's not the right word because it hurts, but we could have our work and our sports and our television and our wife and our kids and our in-laws and our shop, and she becomes kind of just part of our life, where most times the husband or the boyfriend is the woman's entire existence. Not necessarily, but that's kind of how she. Much of her self-esteem comes from the relationship she has with her husband. I don't care whether she's president of IBM. Most of it comes from her relationships, and since most of our self-esteem comes from what we do, our work, then we again just kind of pass in the night, not really understanding each other. Men don't understand how much she wants to have a relationship, and she doesn't understand how goal-oriented we are and how we have to be taught, and we have to have that third party.
Yeah, but I thought that the old saying is behind every good man is a good woman.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think that's true.
Yeah.
This is not.
I agree. Yeah.
This is not a man-bashing deal by any means. What this is just as simply, it's kind of Genesis 2:18, and way back before you were born, all we had was the Dead Sea Scrolls, and so I'd climb up to the cave and look in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And Genesis 2:18 in the Dead Sea Scrolls said that the woman was to be a helpmeet. And nobody, even my pastors, didn't know what that meant. And so Barb has a wonderful teaching gift. And when we were going through our hardest times, we decided we had a lifetime commitment, but that was about it. We better work at this and see what's going on. And so she found that the Hebrew word for helpmeet is completer. And she knew this all the time, but for me, that was a brand new spin, a brand new idea of the fact that I was not complete without Barb. I felt complete. In fact, that God said we were one, and I thought I was the one. I thought she would help me, just kind of come along, help me pick up my socks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that was That was a bright day in our starting to learn the fact that she completes me. She's got some gifts and personalities and gifts that I don't have, and I have a couple she doesn't have. Together, we make a much stronger unit than either one of us singly. Now, that doesn't mean people can't be single. Some people are called to be single, but most people are more content when they have the completing part of their lives. The problem is we fight it. We think they're wrong, and why are they doing that again, or how come she always does that? And that's when the circle starts going down, rather than accepting it and saying that's how God designed them, and I'm going to learn how to appreciate their various gifts. Then the circle goes up.
Okay. The one question I got to ask though, do you think that when guys have these so-called 7-year itch or something, they look at other women,
Midlife crisis.
Yeah. Okay. Midlife, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Is that just because they're looking for another trophy, or what is that?
Well,
I mean, I don't mean to say that a wife is a trophy, but I'm just putting it as far as terms saying that we go after something, we get it, and then we seem to go on to the next thing and we try to accomplish it.
I think it's, in my opinion anyway, I think it's a little more complicated than that. And this sounds like I'm blaming the women. I'm not, but I need to at least be honest with them, and I am in this book. I think a lot of times they tend to criticize us and put us down, and they don't mean to. For instance, let's say the screen door is flopping open and needs a spring or something, and she says to herself, I know my husband's committed, I know he loves me to pieces, I know he would do anything for me, and I know how much he would like to know how much I need that door fixed, so I'm going to tell him about that, and I know he'll really appreciate it. The problem is she tells her husband that, and he feels like he's got two mothers, he's been told what to do by a woman, he's a 2-year-old, can't even get the screen door fixed. And so a lot of times the woman's conversation sounds like this to a man, and this is what I'm trying to explain to women. She says, and she's doing it out of a grateful heart, she says, thank you for hanging those pictures. That really helped a lot, but they ought to be a little lower. Thank you for filling the dishwasher. That helps so much, but you put the plastic in the wrong place. Thank you for making the bed when you're the last one up, but the pillow goes in the middle. Thank you for mowing the lawn. You really worked hard on that, but you scraped it over another tree. All we hear is the fact that we didn't do it right.
Right.
And so if a man doesn't have a moral basis, a faith, or whatever you want to call it, so that he would do it because that's what he feels he should do, if he doesn't have that, then what would you rather do? Come home and get cut up and spit out, or go find somebody, at least go to work? And that's the problem with the other woman, is the fact she has no commitment, so she can be exactly what they were in dating, and that feels so good. She thinks she's wonderful. She thinks he's just never does anything right, wrong, and she'd never criticize him, and they look in each other's eyes, and he can go shopping. And I think maybe there's an element of the fact that women don't understand how fragile we are in terms of criticism, because our greatest fear, in my opinion, is failure. And so when they cut us down and tell us that we didn't do this right, then I'm afraid sometimes a man is going to say, who needs that? And he goes out and looks for somebody better.
Okay.
It sounds like I'm blaming the woman. I'm not. I'm just saying that both of us, she misperceives the fact that we take it as criticism, and then we assume the worst. We think she's really cutting us down, when she really, her heart is just saying, since she's in charge of the home, kind of, no matter whether she's in IBM or not, she would like us to help a little more, and then when we don't do it right, we feel criticized.
Okay. So I suppose that's the reason why a lot of guys say, I'm tired of my wife's been nagging me all day, but I'm getting out of here, even though she really hasn't been nagging. It's just, that's the way he looks at it.
Yeah, it's a perception. So it's really important, because, and I know not everybody would agree with me on my philosophy, but there is a biblical principle that says that a wife is to build up her husband, and a husband is to die for the wife. So if she's not building him up and making him feel wonderful, then he really feels badly. He feels like he's really failed, and she can build up her house again with her own hands, and some women are tearing it down.
Uh-huh.
And again, let me just I want to say this about 19 times if I could. I hope you don't mind. I am not blaming women for this. We men are the ones that are, in my opinion, responsible for a woman's movement because we were treating them like objects.
Right.
Like there's my job, and there's my hunting gun, and there's my shop, and there's my golf score, and there's my wife, and there's the TV, and she feels taken for granted, which is a woman's
an object.
Yeah. Object. So they
Yeah.
go out and say, "You're just treating me," and that's true. And
Yeah.
so if we treat them like a person, and listen to their heart, and have dates with them, and look in their eyes, and do all the things we did when we were dating, then they think we're wonderful, and they build us up, and that feels good, and then we want to serve them some more and meet some of their needs, and that feels good to them, and then the circle goes up instead of down.
So it's kind of like two little kids in a way.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But we all need somebody to think we're wonderful because we breathe, not because of what we do.
Yeah.
I know I had Barb on a performance basis, and she was doing all these things that just criticizing some of the things. She's a perfectionist, and I'm very loose, and so I wasn't doing these things, and I really was resentful of that. And I just had to learn that was the way she's designed, that's the way she operates, that's what she needs, and if I'm going to meet her needs, then I better understand that. And that really was the basis of our not walking away from each other, because we understood that we both had gifts that were valuable to the other person, and together we could do a better job in the world. And so that's where we started, was just accepting the differences rather than fighting them.
Okay. Now, what about if the man? I know there's a lot of men out there that probably would not go for this.
Oh, sure.
So, for the men that are out there that wouldn't go for this, what chance do the women have with this man?
Well, I would like to challenge them. Now, they're probably. I understand completely your heart on this question, but let me just change it a little bit. If she were building them up, meeting his needs, sexually, materially, being a friend, being a companion, going on a date once in a while, going to the game once in a while, maybe even watching a game once in a while, kind of finding out what he needs, I don't know many. I've never met probably the man. Maybe I have a couple, but of the thousands of guys that have been in my life, I can't remember one that wouldn't respond to that. Now, there's a few jerks running around. But basically, when they feel cut down all the time, through no fault of the woman, that's just the way she sees life, then why would he want to do things for her? But it doesn't always work. So for the men listening, that I would just say that go back to your dating days and treat your wife like you did when you were dating, and then the wives, some people resist this, but I really believe women are kind of designed to respond. So I think even Gloria Steinem, if she had some guy serving her and meeting her needs and looking in her eyes and asking about her mom and going shopping and into the relationship, she wouldn't be writing books. She'd be home enjoying that, I think. But that's so the men. I understand, and I'm a man, and I understand a man's wife. I mean, the mind, and sometimes we say, "Who needs that?"
Now wait a minute. You said something phenomenal there. You understand a woman's mind. That's something that I didn't think any man could possibly understand.
Yeah, but I'm not sure. I think we write them off too soon.
Yeah.
There are some good materials. In fact, that's my next book, so we'll talk about that here in a year or so.
Oh, okay.
I'd like to write a book called The Way to a Woman's Heart, because I've learned a lot of things that they want, and it looks so strange to us, and it's not very complicated. But I challenge the men to take them on as a little project and read this book, and read Gary Smalley's books, and read our first book, which was Incompatibility Grounds for a Great Marriage, about differences. Then if they still feel that way, well, that's their deal. But my guess is they're going to learn some things that they need to do for their wives, and then she responds positively, and then that feels good, and then that motivates him to find some other things. A lot of times a guy will come in my life, and his wife is leaving or something, and I'll have lunch with him and give him a few of these things, and he'll go home and try them. He'll go home and try them. And the wife sometimes calls and says, "Would you have lunch with my husband again?" He went home, and it felt good. And he comes back and says, "Okay, what else?"
Yeah.
But so oftentimes we were resistant to being taught, and I think we just need to get over that and take them on as a project and then see what happens.
Now, I know some relationships, some guys that were basically scumbags to start with. You know, the kind of guys where you said, why is this woman sticking with this guy?
Sure.
Because they were just, they treated him like garbage basically when they first started out, and the woman, for some reason, stayed with them. And I never could figure that one out. What hope does the woman have with something like that?
I think that goes back to the relationship. She is desperate to make the relationship work.
Mm-hmm.
She does not usually have, even if she's in the marketplace, a lot of her feelings come from how her husband or her boyfriend or her significant other, how they're getting along.
Mm-hmm.
So then she just needs to understand kind of where he's coming from, and he needs to understand where she's coming from, and again, if she'll build them up, even the scumbags may take advantage. I mean, I'm not saying this is automatic. I'm just saying I know some cases where the guy just simply takes advantage of even the nice things the wife does do. And if that's the case, just not much I can do about that. But my experience has been that when the wife does, here, I hope you have time just for another 30 seconds. Let me give you some of the things that I feel a wife should do for a husband, and then if he's a scumbag, he may not respond, but my experience, most of them do. She should notice him, regard him, honor him, prefer him, appreciate him, esteem him, praise him, prize him, adore him, enjoy him, love him, to like, to be attracted to make fun for, to flirt with, to laugh with, to look in his eyes, to enjoy him, to admire, to value, to prize, and I add, take him to bed once in a while on her idea. And I tell you, I don't know of many men that could withstand that kind of a woman. I just, I guess there's some jerks, but most men would just absolutely go out of their minds if their wives were doing those things for them.
Okay, yeah. you got that right there, yeah. Now, what about, okay, there's other women for men. Sometimes they look at other women, and women sometimes look at other men.
Sure.
Now, what about the things like possibly like a remote control, for instance? I mean, a TV set basically. Okay, the guy is flipping through channels. He seems to stare just at the TV set, ignoring everything around him when he gets home from work or whatever.
Yeah, that's a little bit about the brain wiring. You can check your anatomy books on this. About the 16th week of the male's baby's development, our brains are bathed in a hormone that destroys many of the interconnecting fibers between the two halves of the brain. Now, not all men have gone through the same identical thing. There's some people have a few more, and some men have a few less. But basically, what that means is that we tend to be more one-dimensional, while a woman's brain does not go through that. Therefore, she's multi-aware. She can use both halves of her brain at once. When we go to the Mariner games, we sit in the wives section because we're old. We're just like parents for the kids. And so Barb will take her handwork, which desecrates America's game right there. But she'll know where, tune in 2 or 3 conversations. She'll know where Rick the peanut guy is, and she will know the score of the game. All I know is Randy doesn't get this guy out. We're in big trouble. So on Monday Night Football, I'm watching the game. I don't know that I live in Seattle. I don't know that I have a wife. I don't know that I have perfect grandchildren. All I know is if our running back doesn't make 3rd and long, we're in big trouble. And then there's a disturbance in the room. It gets louder and louder, and pretty soon I notice it, and it's Barb, and she's trying to talk to me. And here's a principle I'm trying to make sure women know, is that just because their mouth is opening and closing does not mean we're hearing them.
Right.
Because we don't even know we have a wife.
Right.
So what I've asked Barb to do is when she needs to talk to me during the ball game, she'd take my head in her hand and say, testing, testing, Barb to Chuck, hello, come in. And then my eyes will unglaze. I will see that I have a wife, and I'm going to do anything she wants me to do. It's just that, I don't know if any women in your life have ever done this, but Barb will say to me, I told you. Something.
Yeah. That's why I had to ask you that question, because I'm a big not hearing person. I'm focused on one thing,
Yeah, right. And so Barb will say, I told you, and I'll say, I know I would have remembered if you were pregnant. I mean, just something like that.
Yeah.
And what happened was she was trying to talk to me when I was watching the game or reading my paper. Now, we're not beasts. We'd love to have a relationship with them, but when we don't even know that we have a wife, we can't hardly do what they want. So I suggest that the woman must get our attention, and then we'll hear everything she says.
Okay. Well, Chuck Snider, the book, of course, once again, is called Men, Some Assembly Required. It sounds like lots of assembly required to me, but...
Well, I think it works both ways, but I really appreciate your kindness in having me on your program today.
Now, the book can be found in the local bookstores, right?
Yes, sir. Any bookstores should be able to order it for them. Some of them might have it on the shelf. It just came out last summer, and but they'd be able to look in their computer and order it.
Okay, and it's published by...
Focus on the Family.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate being with you.
I've got about 100 more questions, but we're running out of time.
We'll do it again sometime.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.